Hi friends, we're going to be reading a book called Woof. I'm going to start with chapter 1. Two humans stood outside my cage, a white-haired woman and a gum-chewing kid. Gum chewing is one of the best sounds out there, and the smell's not that bad either. I like the kid from the get-go. They gazed at me. I gazed out at them. The white-haired woman had blue eyes, washed out and watery. The kid's eyes were a bright, clear blue, like the sky on a cloudless day. I hadn't seen the sky in way too long. How about this one, Grammy? The kid said. The white-haired woman, that would be Grammy. Not too hard to make these human-type connections once you get the hang of it. Pinched up her face, and it was kind of pinched up to begin with. Eat us out of house and home. The kid cracked her gum. What a sound. I can't tell you what that does to me, shooting this buzzy little feeling all the way up from my ears to the tip of my tail and back again. I don't know, Grammy, she said. Looks thin to me. My point exactly. He's just waiting on some sucker to take him home and fatten him up. Check out the frame on him. Frame, said the kid, not getting it. I wasn't getting it either. Bone structure, width of his shoulders, size of his paws, Grammy said. Something was wrong with my paws? I thought about hiding them out of sight, but how? I was still working on that problem when Adrian came into view. Adrian, a big woman with a powerful grip, ran the joint, a joint with cages for me and my kind. Eats like a bird, believe it or not, Adrian said. Was this a good time for growling? Probably not, which I didn't realize until it was too late. I should have been doing everything I could to make a good impression, but you'd be growling yourself if the reason you ate like a bird was because you got fed like a bird. And by the way, the whole thing about birds not eating much needs to be looking into. Ever seen one of those little red-breasted ones gulp down a long, fat, struggling worm? Enough said. Grammy backed up a step. It doesn't look very friendly neither, she said, and started to move away. Meaning, that was that, and not the first time for me in this place, except for one thing, which was the kid not moving away. In fact, she was leaning closer. Yeah, he does, Grammy, she said. See his eyes? Grammy took a look. What about him? They're so gentle, the kid said. The growling sound faded away. The kid turned to Adrian. And he's smart, too, isn't he? Smart, said Adrian. Sure, for a dog. Which I didn't get, and the kid didn't seem to get either. We were good at not getting things, me and the kid. What's his name? She said. No idea, Adrian said. Dog officer picked him up a few months ago. Stray, no tags. You mean I can name him? The kid said. Whoa, said Grammy. The kid took out her gum, stuck it behind her ear. Maybe the coolest thing I'd ever seen. She went still, the way humans do when they're going deep inside their heads. Bowser, she said at last. Huh, said Grammy. I named him Bowser. What kind of name is Bowser, Grammy said. What kind of name is Birdie, said the kid. It's yours, said Grammy. A fine southern name. Fine, try trashy. Watch your mouth. I'm changing it to Emmanuel the day I turn 21, meaning exactly 10 years minus 3 days from now, said the kid. Birdie, if I was following this right. No guarantees about that. Bowser's not a trashy name. She stuck her fingers through the cage wiring. No room for her whole hand. It's dignified. I stepped forward, gave her fingers a lick. They tasted of bologna, like maybe Birdie had eaten a bologna sandwich, and not long ago. The kid was off the charts. Let's take him home, she said. Totally off the charts. This one, Grammy said? Really? What is he anyhow? A mutt, obviously, Adrian said. Those ears are shepherdy, if like on the big and floppy side. That shaggy tail's more poodly, and the color scheme's kind of like a Bernese. Whoever she was talking about sounded like a winner to me. The kid must have been thinking the same thing because she said, Those are my 3 favorites. Grammy sighed. Hope you know what you're doing, she said. Happy belated birthday. Not very belated. I love you, Grammy. He's your responsibility. I know. You'll never have to worry about a thing. The next thing I remember, we were outside. Not outside in the little walled-in cement floor yard of back of Adrian's that she called a play area, but out front in the parking lot. There the air was fresh, and a dude might actually feel like playing. Freedom. Hey, Grammy, check out his tail. Looks even shaggier than a poodle's to me. I think it's very nice, and while I was talking about how he's wagging it. What was this? Something about my tail? I turned my head to look. I can turn my head practically straight back if I needed to, although I did not in this case, the layout of my eyes being somewhat better than humans. If you don't mind me saying, and took a glance at my tail, shaggy? I thought not. How about bushy? That was it. I have a bushy tail, perfectly suited to all sorts of tail-type tasks, such as wagging, which I seem to remember had been mentioned fairly recently. No argument there. My tail was wagging, and wagging good. Looked more like a shaggy blur than anything else. High-speed wagging means someone's real happy about something. I took a crack at thinking what it could be, and I was just giving up. Isn't this always the way? It came to me. Freedom. Not that I was completely free, not with this length of rope that Adrian looped around my neck on the way out the door, handing the end to Birdie. Although, and this was interesting, from the loose way Birdie was holding it, there was really nothing from stopping me. For heaven's sakes, child, tighten up on that rope. Birdie's hand, surprisingly strong for its size, closed around the loop. I was giving some consideration to testing how strong that hand could be in the action of a real sudden kind, when we came upon an old pickup truck, all battered and dented and rusty. Grammy swung down the tailgate. It made a horrible metallic screech that hurt my ears like I can't tell you, and said, "Okay, dog, hop in." Bowser, Grammy. His name is Bowser. Whatever. Hop in. Grammy knocked her fist on the edge of the pickup bed, showing where she'd wanted me to go. I stayed where I was. Grammy got that pinched look on her face again. If it's going to be like this, we're marching him right back inside. Oh no, Grammy, maybe, she turned my way, maybe he can't jump because of the leash. Bogus, Grammy said. Plenty of slack in that line. It's more psychological. Huh? What's that supposed to mean? Birdie knelt in front of me, eye to eye, took my head in her hands. Slow and cautious, but she did it, and no human had ever tried that with me. I wasn't sure how to take it. Sometimes when I'm in that not sure how to take it mode, I can get a little growly, or even, I admit it, bitey. I've had some rough times with humans, no fault of my own. But there was something about how Birdie was looking down right into me, and a look that said, be a pal, clear as day. Plus, her hands were so gentle. On top of that was her smell. There's a basic smell that all humans have. Once in my puppy days at a pet store, not a happy time, as it turned out, I had a monkey roommate in the cage over, a monkey named Moxie, if I remember right. The basic human smell is a lot like Moxie's, but then you get add-ons and takeaways that end up giving each human a smell all their own. I remember the smell every single human I've ever sniffed, believe it or not, and Birdie's was the best I'd run into. A wonderful mix of kid and girl and strawberry chewing gum and lemon soap, plus a hint of fresh, salty sweat. Not a surprise considering the summer heat. Just like that, growliness was the furthest from my mind, except for bitingness, which was even further. Birdie rose and slipped the rope off my neck. Whoa, said Grammy. Without another thought, I leaped up onto the bed of the pickup, clearing it with plenty to spare. Hey, I was right. Those clear sky eyes of Birdie's were wide open, a very nice sight. And did you see that jump? Grammy said, slamming the tailgate shut. They walked out around the front, opened the doors, got in. The bed of this pickup turned out to be a pretty interesting place. We had some fishing rods over on one side, fish scales glittering on the bare metal floor here and there, but no fish, although there was a whole pail of worms wriggling away in one corner. I went over and sniffed them, mostly since worms and the strange fact that birds like eating them had recently been on my mind. I was just starting to think of giving it a try myself when through the back window of the cab I noticed the most interesting thing of all. There was room on the front seat for 3. Did I mention that the back window was wide open? Hey, what the, Grammy said. Bowser, said Bertie at the same moment I was sticking a perfect landing in the middle of the bench seat. I sat straight up and tall, panting just a bit, but not from exertion. Leaping through a wide-open window could hardly be called exertion, more from the sheer excitement about whatever was coming next. A sort of silence fell on after us, Bertie looking past me at Grammy in a nervous way. I think he wants to ride in front, she said at last. He better not get used to it, Grammy said. I promise he won't. Don't make promises you can't keep. But how do you know ahead of time? Also, don't be a smart mouth. Grammy turned the key, wheeled us out of the parking lot with a rubbery squeal, and sped down the open road. I had no complaints about Grammy. I love speed. Faster, Grammy, faster. Why is he drooling? I wouldn't call it drooling, Grammy. No, he can't help it when his mouth's wide open like that. Then get him to close it. Come on, Bowser, be good. What was this? They liked my mouth? How nice. What about my tongue? I folded it all the way, flopped the whole thing out so they'd get a better view. I'm all about pitching in when I can. And who was Bowser again? Oh, right, me. I'd have to remember that. We zipped along 2-lane blacktop, a strip mall and trailer park kind of town on one side, a narrow bayou on the other, with lots of bugs hovering over the water, like clouds of tiny sparks in the sunshine. This was my bayou country, pretty much new to me, being a city dude myself. How had I gotten here and ended up at Adrian's? I tried to make my mind go backwards and pick up the pieces, but the kind of mind that doesn't like going backwards. So the only piece I picked up was the dog catcher trapping me in the alley, no place to go, and a look on his face I didn't much care for. Bowser does a lot of thinking, Bertie said. Don't be ridiculous. I can feel him thinking. Grammy glanced sideways at Bertie. Too much imagination. That's your problem. He's thinking the exact same thing. You giving me lip, child? No, Grammy. There was a little pause. The bayou opened wide and boats appeared, tied to a dock that ran along the near side of the water. Where does it come from? Bertie said. Where does what come from? My too much imagination. Mama or my daddy? Another pause, this one heavier than the last and a bit uncomfortable. Hard to explain how. Then Grammy said, let's just stick to our knitting. I knew knitting from my puppy days, had a clear memory of a cat unraveling a whole big ball of wool and then making tracks, leaving me to take the fall. Was that the beginning of the end of my city life? I got the feeling of being close to some sort of understanding. It went away, so that was that. Meanwhile, there was no sign of wool or knitting in the pickup, so either Grammy wasn't making sense, I couldn't come up with another possibility. Bertie gave me a pat on the back of my neck. It felt good. I pressed against her hand. She pressed back. I pressed harder. Don't let him push you around like that, Grammy said. He's not. You're practically out the door. Bowser, be good. I gave her a lick on the side of the face. I can't be much better than that. Bertie laughed. What a lovely sound. And was still laughing when we turned off the road and parked in front of a very interesting building. It was low and yellow, with a long porch crowded with fishnets and boys and barrels and coils of rope, and had a sign on the roof in the shape of a fish. Here we are, Bowser, Bertie said. Go family fish and bait. Guided swamp tours, live bait, crawfish by the sack. Box lunches to go, only that go is spelled G-A-U-X. Get it? Like a pun. Dogs don't spell, Grammy said, but they sure as heck don't get puns. She leaned forward, her washed-out eyes narrowing. And why's the door open? Place will be full of flies. If I told him once, I told him. By the time Grammy was out of the pickup and striding towards the yellow building, bait shop or some other fishing thing, if I was in the picture and calling, Snoozy, Snoozy. Birdie and I followed, somehow hopping out first, kind of a preference of mine. Snoozy's in trouble, Birdie said. We went inside. What a place, filled with smells and sights, way too many to describe now, except for the cigar smoke scent, which happened to be a personal favorite. Grammy went right to the cash register at the back, where a skinny, long-haired dude sat slumped forward, head resting comfortably on the counter, eyes shut tight. Hey, was he a drooler too? I had found a new friend already. What a day I was having, after so many with no friends at all. Grammy smacked the counter right by his ear, good and hard. Snoozy, wake up! Snoozy sat up with a start. Wah, he said, wah, which was when he must have felt the drool on his face, a face that needed a shave, like maybe days ago, and started wiping it on the back of his arm. His arm was covered in tattoos right up to the armpit. Snoozy's armpit easily seen on account of the sleeveless t-shirt he wore. Am I paying you to sleep? Grammy said. Musta dozed off, Snoozy said. Couldn't have been more than 30 seconds. And you left the door open. How many? Grammy, Birdie said. Where's Blackjack? She pointed to the wall above Snoozy's head. A yellow wall, but a big section of it was lighter and cleaner than the rest. Everybody looked in that direction. All at once, Grammy seemed to get a bit wobbly. She grasped the edge of the counter to steady herself. Grammy, Birdie said, reaching out towards Grammy but not quite touching her. Are you all right? Something stiffened in Grammy, and I could see it. I said, I'm fine. Who's Blackjack? Snoozy said. Grammy turned to him, slow and deliberate. She gritted her teeth, old teeth, and yellow as the paint job in this place, but unchipped and very even. Blackjack, she said, the champion black marlin caught off a Grand Isle by my daddy when he came back from the war and mounted right up here on the wall ever since. Snoozy opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. His teeth were whiter than Grammy's, but way fewer in number. Imagine having a mouth that was mostly gaps. I felt bad for my new pal Snoozy. Couldn't have been more than 30 seconds. And that is the end of chapter 1.